For centuries, students of biblical prophecy have pored over the cryptic imagery of the Book of Revelation, searching for the moment when its symbolic beasts would step out of the pages of Scripture and onto the stage of world history. Many candidates have been proposed, many have been dismissed, but rarely have the structural details of a new global institution aligned so precisely with the prophetic text as what we are now witnessing with the emergence of the Board of Peace and its extraordinary relationship with the United States of America under the leadership of Donald Trump. This video presents the argument that the Board of Peace corresponds to the seven-headed beast of Revelation 13, that the United States, particularly in its current political configuration, represents the two-horned beast described later in the same chapter, and that the temporary displacement of the United Nations by this new body fulfills one of the most enigmatic prophecies in Revelation 17. Whether one accepts these conclusions or not, the structural parallels deserve serious examination. The seven-headed beast, a new global authority. Revelation 13 verses 1 and 2 describes a wild beast rising with 7 heads and 10 horns, possessing enormous authority over the nations. Throughout the history of biblical interpretation, this beast has been understood to represent a dominant political structure, a coalition or governing entity that wields power on a global scale. The number 7, far from being arbitrary, has consistently been understood in prophetic literature to represent completeness or totality of earthly governance. The Board of Peace, as it has been conceived and structured, is designed to function as an international body with sweeping authority over matters of global conflict resolution, economic coordination, and geopolitical order. Its very name, the Board of Peace, carries an irony that students of prophecy will immediately recognize. The beast of Revelation 13 does not rise declaring war. It rises declaring order. It rises declaring solutions. It rises in a world weary of chaos, and it offers what appears to be a rational, even benevolent consolidation of power. What makes the Board of Peace particularly striking as a prophetic candidate is that it is not simply an advisory committee or a think tank. It is being positioned as a decision-making authority, a body that can direct outcomes among nations. It exercises real power over real geopolitical situations. Revelation 13:4 asks, "Who is like the wild beast and who can do battle with it?" This is not a question about military strength alone. It is a question about perceived inevitability. When a power structure rises that appears to be the only viable path to global stability, who would dare oppose it? Who would even want to? The 7 heads of the beast have long been interpreted as representing either successive world powers or simultaneous centres of authority working in concert. The Board of Peace, composed of leading nations and influential figures operating under a unified mandate, fits this symbolism with uncomfortable precision. It is not a single nation, it is a collective, but a collective with a singular, driving will behind it. Revelation 13 verse 11 then introduces a second beast, one that rises from the earth rather than the sea. This beast has 2 horns, like a lamb, but speaks as a dragon. This imagery has been the subject of intense debate, but several features point unmistakably toward the United States. First, the 2 horns, like a lamb. Throughout American history, the nation has presented itself through 2 defining principles that resemble gentleness and righteousness, democracy and religious freedom. These twin ideals have been the horns of American identity, its claim to moral authority on the world stage. Like a lamb, the United States has portrayed itself as a nation founded on godly principles, a beacon of liberty. However, the 2 horns could also symbolize the two-party political system of the United States, the Republicans and the Democrats. Yet the prophecy warns that despite this lamb-like appearance, it speaks as a dragon, meaning that its actual exercise of power would eventually reveal a nature far more authoritarian and coercive than its founding image would suggest. The critical verse, however, the verse that seals this identification in the current moment, is Revelation 13 verse 12. It exercises all the authority of the first wild beast in its sight. Read that again carefully. The 2-horned beast does not merely support the first beast. It does not merely ally itself with the first beast. It exercises all the authority of the first beast. It wields the same power, makes the same decisions, directs the same outcomes. And it does so in its sight, meaning in full view of the first beast, in its presence as its functional operator. This is precisely the dynamic we are now witnessing. Donald Trump serves simultaneously as the President of the United States and as the driving force behind the Board of Peace. He's not merely an American leader who participates in an international body. He is the head of both entities. The authority of the Board of Peace, the seven-headed beast, is exercised through the agency of the United States, because the same individual commands both. This is an unprecedented arrangement in modern geopolitics. Never before has the leader of a single nation so thoroughly embodied the operational authority of an international governing structure. The Board of Peace does not function independently of American executive power. It functions through it. When Trump directs the Board of Peace, he does so as the President of the United States. When the United States acts on the international stage through the framework of the Board of Peace, it exercises all the authority of that body. The two entities are distinct in name but unified in leadership. Revelation 13 verse 12 could hardly be fulfilled more literally. The two-horned beast, the United States, exercises all the authority of the first wild beast, the Board of Peace, in its sight, because they share a single head. But there is a second layer to this prophetic picture, and it involves the entity being displaced. Revelation 17 verse 8 introduces one of the most mysterious descriptions in all of Scripture. The wild beast that you saw was, but is not, and yet is about to ascend out of the abyss. This verse describes a beast, a global power structure, that existed, then ceased to exist, and then returns. The three-phase nature of this prophecy is crucial. It was, it is not, and it is about to ascend. For decades, the United Nations has served as the primary international body for global governance. Established in 1945 in the aftermath of World War II, the UN has been the world's foremost platform for multilateral diplomacy, conflict mediation, and international law. It existed, it functioned. It held authority, however imperfect, over the community of nations. Now consider what happens when the Board of Peace assumes the UN's role, not permanently, but temporarily. The United Nations does not cease to exist on paper. Its charter is not formally revoked. Its buildings still stand. But its functional authority, its practical relevance as the arbitrating body of international order, is suspended. It is sidelined. It is rendered inoperative. For all practical purposes, during the period of the Board of Peace's supremacy, the UN is not. This is the abyss. In prophetic language, the abyss is not annihilation. It is a state of inactivity, of dormancy, of being rendered powerless without being destroyed. The UN enters a period of irrelevance, a geopolitical abyss, as the Board of Peace takes over its functions. But the prophecy does not end there. It says the beast is about to ascend out of the abyss. This means the UN will come back. After the temporary period of the Board of Peace's dominance, the United Nations, or a reconstituted version of it, will re-emerge. It will ascend. It will reclaim its position. And when it does, according to the rest of Revelation 17, the world will marvel at its return. This three-phase pattern is extraordinarily specific, and it maps onto current developments with striking clarity. The UN was the dominant international body. The Board of Peace is displacing it, sending it into a period of functional non-existence. And the prophetic text assures us that this displacement is temporary, that the UN will return from its abyss. What makes this moment so remarkable from a prophetic standpoint is the convergence of all these elements simultaneously. We do not have to speculate about future possibilities or construct elaborate, hypothetical timelines. The pieces are assembling in real time. The Board of Peace is being established as a global authority, a beast with the power to direct nations. The United States, under Trump's leadership, is functioning as the operational engine of that authority, exercising all its power because the same leader commands both. And the United Nations, the previous beast of international order, is being pushed into irrelevance, into the abyss, with the implicit understanding that its displacement is not permanent. Revelation 13:5 notes that the first beast was given authority to act for 42 months. This time limitation is itself significant. It suggests that the beast's dominance is not eternal. It has a window, a season. This aligns with the concept of the Board of Peace serving as a temporary replacement for the UN. The prophetic text always anticipated that this structure would have an expiration date, a defined period of authority after which the old order would reassert itself. It is important to acknowledge that prophetic interpretation is by nature a matter of discernment, not mathematical certainty. Scholars have disagreed for millennia about the precise meaning of Revelation's symbols. Some read them as referring exclusively to first-century Rome. Others see them as archetypes that repeat across history. Still others believe they describe specific end-time events that will be unmistakable when they occur. What cannot be denied, however, is that the structural parallels between current geopolitical developments and the text of Revelation 13 and 17 are unusually precise. The emergence of a new multi-headed international authority. A single nation, with two defining principles like lamb's horns, exercising all that authority through shared leadership. A previous global institution entering a period of dormancy with the expectation of future return. These are not vague resemblances that require imagination to see. They are specific, structural, and observable. Whether one concludes that these developments represent the definitive fulfillment of biblical prophecy or merely a remarkable historical echo, the alignment demands attention. The text said a beast would rise with global authority. One has. That's the Board of Peace. The text said a two-horned power would exercise all that authority in its sight. That's the USA. The text said a previous beast would descend into the abyss, only to return. The UN appears to be doing exactly that. The book of Revelation was written to be understood, not in every detail at every moment, but progressively, as events unfold. Its purpose was never to satisfy idle curiosity about the future, but to prepare the watchful for the realities they would face. Here is where it calls for wisdom. Revelation 13 verse 18 states, "Wisdom in this context is not passive. It is the active, courageous engagement of observation with Scripture. The Board of Peace has emerged as a new centre of global authority. The United States, under a single leader who commands both entities, exercises all its power. The United Nations is descending into functional irrelevance, a geopolitical abyss from which prophecy says it will one day return. These are not fringe observations. They are visible developments, playing out on the world stage, aligning with words written nearly 2,000 years ago on the island of Patmos. The question is not whether these parallels exist. They do. The question is what we choose to do with the recognition. Revelation was always a book for the watchful, for those willing to look at the world with scriptural eyes and acknowledge what they see, even when what they see is unsettling. The beasts of Revelation are not coming. They are assembling, and for those with eyes to see, the correspondence between prophecy and present reality has never been more vivid, more structural, or more demanding of our attention. So aren't we happy to live in this prophetic time? Let's continue to be watchful and observe the messages in the Revelation. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.